I don't need anything. For what reason? You're gonna get some education today.
So then you're refusing to tell me your name or anything, right?
I am an independent journalist, and I don't have to tell you my name unless you have reasonable suspicions that I've committed a crime.
This video comes from YouTuber ArtBart. He seems to be walking and recording down a police parking lot when he decides to ask a female officer sitting in her car a question.
Hello. Hey, do you know if that area is publicly accessible?
No, why would it be?
Oh, nothing. I'm fine. Appreciate it.
It's generally accepted and expected that police officers can and should respond to questions from the public, given that their role is to serve and protect the community. However, the manner and context in which questions are asked can affect how an officer responds. He greets the officer and asks if the area where he wants to film is publicly accessible. This shows respect and, more importantly, his demeanor as a law-abiding citizen. This gentleman seems to be a pro when it comes to interactions with the police. Short and sweet. Understanding that any further interaction that is necessary could get him in trouble, he replies that he needs nothing else and that he appreciated her response. A polite, non-threatening interaction with a citizen that any other cop would appreciate. This female officer took it upon herself to find out what he was doing.
I don't need anything. For what reason? But I can though. So this isn't the police department? I don't need anything.
In US law, the definition of a public place can vary depending on context, but it's generally considered a place where the public has a right to be and to pass through. This might include areas such as parks, sidewalks, streets, and other open areas. From the beginning of this video, you can tell the area where he is currently filming is not gated, meaning anyone could use it as a pass-through area and thus a public place. No person would expect any privacy in this lot. This is important to point out since US laws generally permit recording in public places without requiring consent from individuals being recorded, so long as it does not infringe upon their reasonable expectation of privacy. This gentleman is just clearly exercising his First Amendment rights.
Oh, these are probably police cars or something close to. So, I think he just called for backup. So I'm gonna sit here and wait for him
As this guy is walking away from this situation, he notices the officer calling for backup, even though he just asked a simple question, is leaving the premises and doesn't pose a threat to her or others. She yells at him to stop and asks what he needs. This officer has no grounds to demand from him to stop and explain himself to her. Filming cars in a parking lot might seem suspicious for some, but she is an officer of the court and should have a higher level of understanding of basic laws than a civilian. She claims that he is in a private property, and she is in fact right. A police parking lot is typically considered private property in the sense that it is owned and controlled by the police department. Even though the police department is a public entity, certain areas of its property may be restricted from general public access. The reality is that these cars are parked in what is considered to be in plain sight and can legally be recorded. This is the same principle a cop might have further grounds to question you if he sees something suspicious through your car window at a traffic stop. This gentleman informs the female officer that he is an independent journalist and that he doesn't need anything from her.
Okay, so how can I help you?
Oh, I'm recording.
For what?
I'm an independent journalist. Appreciate it.
Okay, from where?
I'm independent.
You have your ID with you?
I don't need it.
For what?
For what reason? Suspicious
Well, I don't want you standing here recording at the police department for obvious security
Well,
reasons,
you just told me it was private.
The female officer asked for this guy's identification, to which he immediately questioned this officer's reasoning of asking him for it. She claims that is a security risk having this person seeing or filming at the police department. If this was true, the department would have constructed walls instead of having an open parking lot. He reasonably asked for this officer's name and badge number.
Okay.
You just told me. What's your badge number? I do need your badge number. You just engaged with me. So if anything else, call your superior.
Supervisor?
I would.
Sure.
Because you're supposed to give me your name and badge number when I ask for it. Okay. We will see. We will definitely see.
In general, the protocols related to a police officer providing their badge number and name vary depending on the department and the jurisdiction. However, generally speaking, it's often considered good practice for officers to identify themselves when asked. The backup arrives as this gentleman requested a supervisor. Another female officer who is interacting in her official capacity as a police officer refuses to provide her name and badge number.
Hello.
How you doing, guy?
All right, how about yourself?
I'm good. What do you want?
That's good. Can I have your name and badge number, please?
No, not right this minute. You can't. What are you here
Oh,
for?
and why can't I?
Because I'm asking you, why are you here?
It's the public. I don't need a reason to be in public.
Really?
I don't.
In situations where the officer has made an official interaction, which she did in this instance, officers are required to provide their name and badge number if a member of the public asks for it. By providing this information, the officer would promote transparency and accountability. Think about it, if officers were to shrug it off every time someone would ask for this information, how would it be possible to file a complaint against an officer abusing his power?
I don't need a reason to be in public.
Really?
I don't.
I think this is the funniest part of this interaction when the backup officer seems surprised that citizens don't need a reason to be in public. Here is the most infuriating part of this. The initial officer is going to recount her side of the story. She doesn't realize or understand that what she's about to say is totally legal.
I just want to real quick explain to you, when I'm on the phone right now, I'm talking to somebody from the courts, right? I'm on the phone with the judge.
That's fine.
And you walk up to my car.
And I said, pardon me.
Okay, so
Right.
then you asked if you could go back there.
I said,
and
was it
take-
publicly accessible? Correct.
If he was acting in a suspicious, violent way, then yes, you would have grounds to demand for his credentials, but he just walked away the second you said it was private property. He wasn't confrontational, he wasn't disrespectful. What is it that you are not getting? If you are not suspected of committing a crime or in the act of committing a crime, law enforcement does not have the right to demand your identification. A law enforcement officer asking for your identification without any of these circumstances could potentially infringe upon your Fourth Amendment rights, which guard against unreasonable searches and seizures, as well as your Fifth Amendment rights, which protect against self-incrimination.
I am an independent journalist, and I don't have to tell you my name unless you have reasonable suspicions that I've committed a crime.
So I don't have to tell you my name, right?
I'm glad this guy stood his grounds and his rights, because we all share these same basic rights.
So now I had to get off the phone with the judge.
You didn't have to.
Well, yes, I did, because
Okay.
you're coming over here.
No, lady, you didn't have to get off the phone. You made this your life mission to investigate someone asking a question. And the reason he walked away is because you said it was a private area. He was complying with what you said.
What am I doing exactly?
You're not understanding what I'm saying. So I'm on the phone
Hey, how
with
you
the
doing?
judge.
Two officers seem to be entering the scene, and this guy is going to give them a master class of redacting exactly what happened.
You walked over to my car.
And said, pardon
while I
me.
was on the
Hey,
phone.
hey, so are you from Indianapolis?
I am actually.
Okay, so you remember the news reports not too long ago? We had someone come by and fire shots into this
That has
roll call?
nothing to do with me.
So I guess citizens can't walk up to an officer now? She clearly now understands she is wrong and is trying any excuse so she doesn't look foolish in front of her colleagues.
And once I told her that I was an independent journalist and I have the freedom of press,
Well, independently journalists. Journalize whatever you like.
I appreciate the superiors being more calm and understanding, and it's tragic that someone who posed as a fake journalist would commit crimes using our beloved rights as a shield, but the fact is that if we were to treat everything like this, then no one could do anything. You couldn't drive because people have used cars to commit crimes. You can't go for a jog because people have stolen things and gotten away by running. A big part of a police officer is to identify what is a threat and what isn't. This is a fundamental flaw that every cop, in my opinion, whether good or bad, has, thinking that every person they interact with is doing something illegal or that they are guilty of something. Clearly, this gentleman was just standing up for our rights, and we should thank him for it.